So in the last video, we have seen three approaches to probability. The first approach is classical approach, where we are actually assigning equally likely events. The second approach was relative frequency approach, where we conduct n number of experiments and we will see whether the outcomes are favorable to event A, and if they are favorable we will count them and we will take a ratio of the number of favorable outcomes divided by total number of outcomes. So this is what we have done in second approach, which is relative frequency approach. This is crucial for studying classical statistics because this actually gives us some idea about the estimate of probability. And in the third approach, which actually encompasses the previous two approaches, that is axiomatic definition of probability, and to emphasize that how it encompasses all the other two approaches is, let us say if I choose the value of p, to be equal to half, then if the value of p is chosen to be half, p is equal to half, let us say, then this is nothing but the first approach, that is classical approach. And if I choose the value of p that I get from the frequentist interpretation, that is, let us say 0.48. So I did a tossing of a coin 100 times, 48 were heads, then still both of them will work. So this is relative frequency and the one is classical. So this is how it encompasses all the approaches, and therefore it is worth studying the third approach to probability, that is axiomatic definition of probability. So henceforth, whenever we will discuss about probability, we are referring to axiomatic definition of probability. And once we have an axiomatic setup, it is important to understand, it is very important to understand how we are assigning these probabilities. Then the natural question that may arise is, if you are assigning these probabilities, then are those assignments unique, or what are the steps that I need to take in order to assign unique probabilities? In this case, for head and tail of the experiment, this case was very easy or pretty elementary, but when we will go further, we will also have many things that may not be this easy. So in such cases we need to be very careful. So in order to understand those things, let us go to one more level of detail, that is types of the sample space. So what we have seen so far in this particular session is, we know now what is a random experiment or what constitutes a probability experiment. Then we know, if I have a random experiment, I need to enlist the set of all outcomes, and that enlisting of set of all outcomes will contribute to sample space. So I have a sample space now. Now based on the experiment, we can have a sample space which is discrete, and we can have a sample space which is continuous. There is a third possibility also, we will discuss it later, where the sample space is neither discrete nor continuous. We will discuss it later. But right now, for a moment, assume that there are only two kinds of possibilities of sample spaces, discrete and continuous. What do I mean by discrete? By discrete, I mean set of natural numbers, set of integers, or anything that can be enumerated by using set of natural numbers. So these discrete sample spaces will have some kind of sequential nature, in a sense that they can be written as a sequence or they are countable. And when I talk about continuous, I am not talking about only uncountable, I am talking about a continuous sample space. That means the sample space will have sets which are of the form of intervals, or if it is in R2, it will be circle, or all kind of open sets. So those are continuous. So you may ask, suppose I want to define a sample space of irrationals. This is a deep question. and you cannot define a sample space with only irrationals. So we will eliminate this, and we will not consider throughout the course any such non-reasonable sample spaces. So for us, whenever we talk about sample space, the sample space will either be discrete, or it will either be continuous, or it will be mix of discrete and continuous, but never only uncountable, never ever. So this you should remember in your mind. Now let us go to examples of some discrete sample spaces. First, toss of a coin. Well-known example, toss of a coin. So I am interested in the face that is showing up, that is head and tail. So is this sample space discrete? Yes, it has only two outcomes. So it is a roll of a die. Yes, this is also a sample space which is of our interest, and you can consider roll of a die. If it is a six-sided die, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is generally the case. Now you look at the new thing. The experiment is tossing of a coin until the first head occurs. So what will be a sample space for this? Let us try to enlist. So until first stage occurs, right? So if I decide to write a sample space for this, one element can be in the first toss head has occurred. Second element can be a tail has occurred first and then head has occurred, then tail, tail, head, tail, tail, tail and head, and this will continue. How long it will continue? It will be infinite, right? So theoretically a head can occur at the very large trial, or it can never occur, right? So in such case the sample space is actually infinite. So these two are the examples of finite sample spaces. This sample space is countably infinite. But still it is discrete because I can associate. So when the head has occurred, I can associate numbers with this 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, right? So this is what I meant when I said a sequential nature of a sample space. I can actually define a function. Let us call this set as omega. Then I can define a function from set of natural numbers to omega, which actually locates the position of head, and prior to that all heads are there, all tails are there. So therefore this is a kind of sequence that you have studied in your earlier semesters. Okay, so the sample space is actually of sequential nature. Now let us take some examples of a continuous sample space. We have already seen these two examples, that is lifetime of a bulb, and we have enlisted the sample space to be 0 to infinity. Tensile strength of a steel beam, we have enlisted the sample space as 0 infinity. Let us take a third example, hitting a bullseye on a unit square. Okay, so let us say this is a square on a unit square. So let us assign a coordinate axis to this, and it's a unit square. So this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, and therefore the sample space is of the form 0, 1 cross 0, 1. Now remember, in this experiment I am enlisting the sample space at 0, 1 cross 0, 1. That means I am assuming the participants who are participating are genuinely interested in hitting the bullseye, right? But in real life there may be participants who are not interested in hitting the bullseye, and they may fire randomly, which may not even hit the board. So all those participants, we will eliminate them, or we will treat them as insincere participants, and we will not consider their data. So therefore it is good enough to write the sample space as 0 1 cross 0 1. This is again, while modeling you have made an assumption that you will ignore insincere participants. Otherwise this sample space can be entirely the wall, that is R2. Okay. So these are some of the examples of sample spaces, and these are the two kinds of sample spaces. Now let me come to a point where I said the sample spaces can be mixed. So how it can happen? Let us say I want to develop a sample space that I will toss a coin first. I will toss a coin first. If I get heads, then I will get an opportunity to hit the dart or hit bullseye on the unit square. This is an experiment that is being conducted. So what I am saying here is the experiment is of this form: toss a coin, and the policy of the people who are conducting this experiment is, if head occurs, then hit bullseye on unit square. Okay, so now what will be the sample space for this? First is toss a coin. I know this is HT, right? Now if head occurs, then what I will do is I will hit a dart. So for that the sample space is 0 1 cross 0 1, right? But this sample space is active only when head has occurred. So how to list the sample space? So the sample space is listed in two parts. First, head has occurred. If head has occurred, then my sample space is 0 1 cross 0 1, and if tail has occurred, it's simply the tail, right? So this is how I will list my sample space as a set. So if head occurs, I will go with this. Otherwise, if tail occurs, I will not have a chance to hit the ball or dart on the unit square. So this is an example, because this is typically discrete. So whenever tail occurs, it's a discrete sample space. Whenever head occurs, it's a continuous sample space. So such sample spaces you cannot characterize into discrete and continuous part. For that we need some special tools in probability. Right now we don't know those tools, but we will handle them successfully as we go ahead in our understanding of probability. So right now this is an example where mixed sample space can occur. We will worry about it later in time. So right now whatever we have studied, we here remark that based on the type of sample space we encounter during the experiment. So how many types of sample spaces you can encounter? One is discrete, one is continuous, the other one is mixed, which comprises both discrete and continuous. So based on the random experiment and the sample space that we encounter for this random experiment, we need to design our probability models. So some points for designing the probability models may help. Those are listed here. First, if the sample space omega is discrete, when I say a sample space omega is discrete, then the following things are true. Discrete means it is either finite or countably infinite. If it is finite or countably infinite, then all subsets of the sample space are events. That means I need to work with all subsets of a sample space, that is, you can call it as a power set of omega. All subsets of the sample space are events. This is very crucial. Let us take one or two examples we have already seen. So if we are tossing a coin, the example is head and tail. it's a discrete. So what are the sample space subsets? It can be an empty set, either head or tail or the entire sample space itself. So this particular thing will be called as power set of omega. In a similar manner, you can also discuss about a die which is thrown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right now, if I had two sets, if I have two elements in the sample space, I got 2 raised to 2, that is 4 subsets of omega. So when I get this particular thing, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rolling a die experiment, I will, how many sets I will get? I will get 2 raised to 6 sets. Right? So 2 raised to 6 sets, if you are interested, you can list down all of them. Now why we are listing all these sets? Because we need to assign probabilities to them. Remember, we need, for when we are considering these sample spaces, what we are interested in is we want to assign probabilities to these sets. So all these 2 raised to 6 sets should be assigned with some probability. Okay, now the situation changes if your omega is uncountable or continuous. Let us now chop out this uncountable thing when omega is continuous, because I said when omega is uncountable means set of irrationals. We will not discuss that in this course. So if omega is continuous, then we cannot consider every set, as we discussed in few previous videos, that we cannot take any set. So what we will do is we will restrict our attention only to those class of subsets that are reasonable within quotes. So I need to emphasize what is reasonable. So reasonable in my terminology or in the terminology of probability means the sets that can be generated by taking open intervals or open sets as basic sets. For example, if I want to handle lifetime of a bulb case, this is 0 to infinity case, or the other case was tensile strength of a beam case, that is also 0 to infinity case. In these cases I cannot consider any two sets. Like my popular set is for, let us say this is omega, for this set, for y belonging to omega, consider a set of all x's such that x minus y belongs to q. Q is the set of rational numbers, and intersect this with omega, so that all the outcomes will remain within omega. These sets are pathetic sets and there is no need of evaluation of probability for such sets, because they cannot, if you think reasonably, they cannot occur. So I will not worry about these sets. Then which sets I will worry about? I will worry about intervals of the form a comma b, which are subsets of omega. If I am able to assign probabilities to these sets, then it is an exercise to show that through countable unions I can reach omega if I consider sets of this form or this form, okay, and I can generate all possible subsets through this by countable union and intersection. Whatever I can generate, only those sets I will take for consideration. This simplifies the probability for a continuous problems, but in some sense this is also a limitation to a probability theory. Okay. So this limitation you should always remember. So that's all about the types of sample spaces. Now once we have types of sample spaces, next we will try to see, in the next video we will try to see how to handle sample spaces for assigning probability masses.